So meditation for me is a tool to, I guess, help us release that pressure valve on the nervous system. And if we strip away a lot of the, ideas around it, because after all, everything is just an idea and we hatch things onto things. Whereas we just understand it as a really simple, powerful, elegant tool to give our mind and body a deep state of rest. And when we do that, we come into a greater contact with a greater field underneath the mind. But yet beyond all that, therefore, when we're giving the mind, body, this state of rest, we can just go out there and perform far greater.
Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Create Your Life. I'm your host, Simone Leah. So I just wanted to let you guys know that today's interview is actually an interview that I recorded about a year ago when I ran an online event called the Soul-Led Entrepreneurs Summit. It was a really, really, really wonderful event. I had some beautiful, amazing speakers talking about things like connecting with your intuition and how you can use that in your business, how to do Facebook advertising, how to do marketing as a soul-led entrepreneur, all of these cool things to do with business, entrepreneurship, and actually also spirituality and connecting within. And so these interviews were so wonderful that I really wanted to be able to share them with you now. So if when you're watching this, you see or hear the word Soul-Led Entrepreneurs, this is still the Create Your Life show, but these interviews were just too good for me to keep to myself any longer. So I really, really, really hope you guys enjoy this interview, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon. Hey guys, and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. My name is Simone and I'm your host. So today I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Rich Muir from the Meditation Spot about a conversation that I had wanted to share with you guys for a while. I always knew when I was first putting this together that I wanted to interview someone about meditation, because for me, I meditate every day and I have done for a while now, and the amount of alignment that happens when you meditate is amazing. So this conversation is really about meditation for clearing and alignment, which was such an interesting chat to have because it gave me a deeper understanding as well of what the different types of meditation are and why they work. So Rich is a meditation teacher who predominantly teaches the Vedic style of meditation, which, as he will say in this interview, is most similar to the transcendental styles of meditation. And what I loved about this conversation is that Rich knows his stuff. So in this conversation, he did actually talk about the right and left sides of the brain and the differences between guided meditation, transcendental meditation, and all the other types of meditation, so that you can get an understanding of the effects that it's having and what it's doing internally. I also love that when Rich talks about meditation, he can tell you the science behind different things and why it's doing these things to you or for you, I guess. So it was a really good conversation just to kind of get that understanding of what meditation can do for you as an entrepreneur going through life. But if you don't have 2 hours a day to meditate 7 days a week, that's okay. Just do what you can do when it comes to meditation. There's no real right or wrong. Just do what works for you. So if you can do a meditation class once a week, do that. If you can meditate for 20 minutes in the morning like I do, do that. Just find something that's doable and sustainable for you, because that's where you get the benefits. Having meditation as a daily practice for me has allowed me to have those benefits and keep that beautiful place of alignment. So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. And hey guys, and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. My name is Simone and I'm here with Rich Muir today from the Meditation Spot. How are you, Rich?
I'm fantastic. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. And I'm so excited to have you here because we're talking about one of my favorite topics, which is meditation. And today we're going to talk about how we can use meditation for clearing and alignment. But I would love to start with the question of, what does being soul aligned in business mean to you?
That's a really interesting question. And I guess especially from my experiences whereby I have been in different businesses in the past and I've been involved in a lot, and some which were definitely going to be amazing and had all the teams in place, some amazing people, but for some reason they just weren't coming to fruition a lot of the time. And despite the fact that everything, if I had pursued it, would have been great, but I knew deep down it just wasn't where I was meant to be. So in that perspective, there was no soul alignment involved in those commercial based businesses. And there's nothing wrong with that. I have friends that are just incredibly successful and they just pump out businesses after businesses. Whereas for me, there was this deeper undercurrent, which is just like, I really picture myself doing this. Do this feel right on every level? And I keep trying. And we still got some businesses which went well, but they just never quite got to the visions that, I was kind of in my, imagination or my mind perceiving, but on that deeper level, I just didn't carry them out. I kept finding a reason why I'd probably sabotage or break that link and, go, no, it's just not working out for me. So then I came to that practice whereby I knew what I was here to do, but for a long time, which was to teach and to help. And for a long time, I just didn't know what shape that would work in, what would it present in terms of me helping people and how. And then when I came to the teaching meditation, on every single level, it was just yes, 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 yes. So before that, it was, I guess there was a break in that chasm. It was just something which just didn't feel coherent on a lot of levels. So to answer that question, be where from on all different aspects of self, there's just no niggling doubt. There's no little sensational feeling inside which goes, I don't know if it's right. It's just fluid and it just feels right and it lights you up. Still have to deal with all the challenges, all those aspects of business and life, but that's just where there's the mind and heart go, this feels right.
Amazing. I love that. And that's so true that you can start something or do something and you're like, oh, I'm just not 100% on this. Whereas when it's completely soul aligned, it's just like this open door that's just like everything just flows through, which is so beautiful. So I literally love that. Thank you for sharing that.
That's a pleasure.
So jumping into how people can use meditation for clearing and alignment, what is meditation? Let's start at the very beginning.
It's one of those funny things, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions around meditation. It's because it's kind of one of those funny words where you think of it, oh, we just sit and close our eyes. When I was telling friends that I'm going to become a meditation teacher, they're like, especially some of my tradie sort of mates were just looking at me with this dumbfounded look on their face going, what the, like, don't you just sit there and go, like, how do you teach that? It's like, what's the point in teaching that? So meditation for me is a tool to, I guess, help us release that pressure valve on the nervous system. And if we strip away a lot of the, ideas around it, because after all, everything is just an idea and we hatch things onto things. Whereas if we just understand it as a really simple, powerful, elegant tool to give our mind and body a deep state of rest. And when we do that, we come into a greater contact with a greater field underneath the mind. But yet beyond all that, we just, therefore, when we're giving the mind, body, this state of rest, we can just go out there and perform far greater. So it can be really a simple, elegant technique whereby we just, as I said, release that pressure valve. And in the modern world, especially in the current collective, that pressure gauge is like cooking level, like the oven's been going way too long. So we need to find ways to release that pressure valve, so therefore we can think more clearly and coherently and more creatively, be more compassionate, and have the ability to respond rather than react. So somehow with simple, elegant techniques, give us so much. It's not just a simple thing. So it's kind of like, it's like the gym. When we say the gym or fitness, there's a vast array of different things. So meditation is kind of similar. There's quite a few different techniques that fall into it, but primarily, I'd say it's a tool designed to quiet. I wouldn't say quieten the mind, but to give the body and the mind a deep state of rest. And as a byproduct of that, come a lot of positive benefits that we receive, other than a quiet 20 minutes or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Totally agree. That is amazing. I love this. I love all of this. Totally find the exact same thing, that it does just help calm everything down. So what are the different types of meditation that people can do? Because there are so many types.
Yeah, it's kind of like going to a gym. And I get a lot of people inquiring, I'm looking into meditation and so on. So there's lots of different banners, but they primarily fall into three buckets. So you've got concentration forms of meditation, contemplation forms of meditation, and self-transcending. So all the techniques will kind of fall into those sort of parameters. Now, a lot of the other main practices that most of us perceive of as meditation were actually designed and in use for monks and monastic people living in caves and ashrams. So a lot of people go, I find meditation really hard because I'm trying to quiet my mind. I can't stop it thinking. I can't control it. And that is because we're living in that high beta brain activity. The modern world, or any world, it agitates to the brain to these certain patterns and rhythms. And when we're in this current collective, if we have any stress in our brains, we're kind of in our nervous system, we're agitating our brain activity up to mid to high beta. So it's really high frequency sort of brain energy. And when we're trying to sit and quiet the mind or calm and concentrate the mind, it's really hard. So those techniques were more for people spending a lot of still sitting around all day. A monk that can just sit there and sweep the floor and just focus on everything, and then just spend hours just observing in that space and quietening the mind. So concentration in form of meditation is a left hemisphere practice. And that's where you might have tried to sit there and concentrate on the air moving in and out of your nostrils. There could be something like that. It could be focusing on a mantra. It could be focusing on a candle, anything where you're trying to hold your attention in place. That's a left hemisphere practice. And it's actually been found that it activates the same part of your brain as when you're solving a math problem. So you're concentrating, right? You're sitting there and you're trying to hold your brain. And that's why a lot of people, they'll sit there and go, okay, stop thinking. And all of a sudden, they quiet in the mind, stop. Oh my God, I can't do this. I'm off thinking about what I'm cooking for dinner and so on. So it's quite a challenging technique. And they're very powerful. Like when you're going to do Vipassana courses or so on, you spend 10 days doing them, you can really train your mind into them. But they are more arduous and challenging for a busy person. Then you have what's called contemplative forms of meditation, which is such things as guided meditation, mindfulnesses, and so on. What they are is they're a right hemisphere based practice. It's like you're using your imagination and present moment awareness. So that activates your right hemisphere. So, for example, guided meditation, visualization, you're creating something, you're activating that part of the brain to get the mind involved. And mindfulness techniques are really good for deactivating the activity of the amygdala, which is our fight or flight system trigger. So it does show a great ability to help reduce stress. So mindfulness is also derived from a lot of Buddhist-based practices. And a great practice, so again, that's primarily a right hemisphere. Then you've got what they call self-transcending. So this is the main technique that I teach is Vedic meditation, which shares its lineage as transcendental meditation. There's a few other forms that fall into that. So with that technique, what we're doing is we use a mantra. Now, these mantras that we use from a certain pool of mantras. Now, these certain pool of mantras are called bija mantras. So mantras mantra is two Sanskrit words, manas and tra. Manas is mind, tra, vehicle. So its translation is it's an instrument of the mind. Now, there's thousands of mantras and many mantras mean something. So if I allocated someone a mantra that meant something, their right hemisphere, their imagination gets involved. So they'd be going, okay, my mantra means this. And every time they sit and meditate, there's going to be a dialogue. And then if we concentrate on the mantras, we activate the left hemisphere. So these mantras are just a beautiful sound. And so they have no meaning and we're not concentrating on them. So it's a very particular technique with self-transcending. And what that does is it lowers the mind and body into a state of rest and activates both hemispheres. So it's shown to increase coherence to the left and the right and thickens the bridge between the two hemispheres called the corpus callosum. So we get greater creativity and critical thinking, and it also reduces the stress response by the amygdala and so on. So all meditation is good, but they're not all equal. And a lot of people, so, I'd probably say 80% of the people I teach consider themselves a failed meditator, which was me for about 8 years, from going from Vipassanas to mindfulness to apps to and so on and so on. They're all good, but they're just different. So sometimes it's a matter of working out, what do I want? If I want to be able to sit and focus on tasks for a long time, then, concentration form meditation is wonderful because it's going to help you activate control and concentration, focus and so on. So it's a matter of really working out what you want and experimenting, because they're all, as I said, they're all good. but there's different benefits that we derive from them.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. I'd love to also know a little bit more with the transcendental meditation in terms of the mantras, because like
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking that I would be focusing on remembering the mantra. Like I'd totally be, because for me, when I meditate, I just kind of, I don't know how I do it. I think I've just been meditating for so long that I just stop thinking and nothing kind of happens. And then I'm like, oh, wow, my alarm just went off, So
Yeah.
if I had a mantra or something, I think I would get caught up in the remembering to say it. So with the transcendental meditation, how do you do you just stop making noise at some point, or how does that even work?
Because what the challenge is, if we have people that, again, they might use it's a little paradox with the technique. So just to hash that out as well. So when I teach, I go under the banner of Vedic meditation. So they share the lineage. The main difference between the two is the team is an amazing organization that does amazing things around the world. I'm an independent practitioner, not affiliated to that, but we share the same lineage, the same technique, so on, and mantras. So when we use the mantras, again, there's a subtle paradox within the technique. We don't concentrate on it. It's there. It's more like a sound which just comes in and out. And again, that's part of the teaching when someone learns that, is how to do it correctly, because we don't want to focus on it, because then we're concentrating. It's just like that. They're sitting there going mantra, 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 mantra. And it's like, oh man, this is intense. It's on. So, but the way it's worked, it's actually been shown to lead the mind into a state of rest, which is 2 to 5 times. Sorry, my dogs are just going.
It's okay.
2 to 5 times greater than that of sleep. So we're getting this state of rest because the mind goes into this defrag state where it's oscillating between the two hemispheres. So it's not concentrating, it's not contemplating. I liken it best to, when you're a child and you're looking up at the clouds. And it's like, oh my God, look at that. It's like, is it a dinosaur? Is it a broccoli? Or is it I don't know what it is, but the brain's just in this state. So sometimes you just get lost in thought. Sometimes the mantra's there, and other times there's no thought, whatever it might be. But because there's no right and wrong, there's no perfection in this technique as well, because that's one of the things that in our Western world, we get told there's a right and a wrong and everything's got to be this way. So a lot of time I'm helping to unpack that. It's like, let go. Please just let go of all that stuff. Here's a chance for you to let go of all the parameters. So yeah, it is a very subtle distinction, and it's a very elegant technique, but it's very simple. But in that elegance is what separates that from a concentration technique and a contemplation technique, if that makes sense.
Definitely. No, definitely. And if someone was wanting to come into meditation to help them with clearing and alignment and things like that, would you recommend they learn one specific technique and apply that for a little while till they're comfortable with it before learning another? Because I know for someone who's been doing it for a little while, like for me, for example, I might want to do a guided meditation one day, and then the next 8 days, I might just do a silent meditation or, but while someone's actually starting and learning how to do it, would you recommend they just pick one technique?
Yeah, totally. Look, again, it really depends. Like there's some people that just want to turn up to go and do a meditation once a week. There's benefit to that, but I kind of liken that to like a plumber bathing on a Sunday night and then not for the rest of the week. So the stress that we're accumulating in our nervous system is why we're seeing exorbitant levels of anxiety, stress, and depression. So I kind of liken it to, you look around the world globally, we're eating pretty well these days. Like we know the health, we know there's obesity and those challenges, but generally we have greater access to health and wellbeing information than ever before. Yet, despite that, we've still got so much unhappiness, so much disconnection, and stress, anxiety, and depression. The biggest killer on the planet is stress. And it's kind of crazy, right? It's like, oh my God, we're living in the 21st century and these things and these diseases are killing us. Why? I kind of liken it to, we're looking after the car better than ever, but we forgot about the driver. And this is why I also teach so many people that have hit that pinnacle. I got there. It's like, what now? What now? my God. Like Jim Carrey famously said, I wish everyone could have fame and fortune. So they realize it's not the answer. So when it comes to that, I think the beauty of meditation is it starts to help us to contact something which is far more enriching than just the external sense of stimulation by success out there, you know, which is important. We want to perform, but we want to have the ability to connect to something far deeper and have that space within where we get enriched. You know, happiness derives from within. It's not out there. But again, it's like, how to find that? I was like, you know, what is that? And so on. And I think that comes back to that soul line, you know, and I believe your body is just communicating constantly to you. It's like when you take a kid camping bowling and you get the little guardrails that come up and it batters them back into the center. That's what I believe their feelings are trying to do. Back this way, back this way. No, you Rich, you've gone, stuck in the gutter. You don't go in the gutter. So our bodies, when we're feeling a certain agitation and so on, or anxiety or stress, it's just trying to say, we need to release it, but we just haven't known how. And this is where meditation is really different to all other practices. It's not like yoga. It's like some people say, yoga is my meditation. Cooking's my meditation. Art's my meditation. Surfing's my meditation. Walking's my meditation. All wonderful, love them, but they're not meditation. Even if I'm doing Tai Chi, I'm moving my body, or yoga, there's an animation, there's a force within the body that's driving that. Whereas when I'm meditating, my body is in this deep state of rest. Nothing going on. And when we bring our awareness to, I'm sure when you're doing your meditation, when you go to that deep nothing state, you bring your awareness to your heartbeat. It's like, oh my God, I don't even know if my heart's beating. But there's so much not happening in there. And when it's in that state, it can just unwind all of those tethers, all the stress points. So if we just start trying to pick up lots of different practices, we're kind of like, it's like a scattergun approach, if that makes sense. And be like me going out to start a business and go, I'm gonna make a cup for everyone. And everyone's gonna want my cup. No, they're not. No, I guarantee no, they won't. Like, we know that. Like, who's your market? Like, who are you going to be talking to? It's like, define who you want to be working with and go and communicate to them, get to know that market, rather than just this, I want to go out something for everyone. So that's the same as meditation. If we're trying all of these bits and pieces, we might be kind of missing those ones which are really beneficial and suited to our nervous system and what we are after. So it'd be, for my recommendation would be, you know, it'd be certainly, you know, you can start off, if you're just looking for something super easy, affordable, and you can do it now, you can download an app like Calm, whatever they are. There's Insight, Timer, and there's great apps. There's some great introductions to them. I liken them to appetizers. And probably 80% of people I teach come from those sort of platforms. I've been doing that, but now I'm just after something a little bit deeper, or I want to be self-sufficient, or you know, I've read about the benefits of this technique and so on. So certainly I'd be encouraging to start with anything, because something is better than nothing. Probably definitely more of a mindfulness practice than concentration, because as I said before, if you're trying to concentrate a busy mind, and a quiet mind is the byproduct of a quiet nervous system. If we've got agitation within, you sit and try and quiet it, you're going to find yourself frustrated. So don't worry about your movement of the mind. The mind will think like the heart will beat. So we want to allow that current to keep going, rather than trying to stop it. So certainly get on the apps and you can start there. You know, and there's so much good information online. You can sit there and just pick up a guided meditation, and guided meditation is wonderful. For my practice, I originally started, you know, I picked up meditation about 15 years ago, and I went and did Vipassana. I don't know if you've heard about Vipassana. It's the 10 days of noble silence. It's a Buddhist-based practice where you sit for 10 days and you meditate for 100 hours over those 10 days, and you're sitting cross-legged on the floor and for up to an hour at each sitting, and it's painful. I was in the hurt locker for like 10 days. It was just incredibly painful. But then at some point it became brilliant. But that's a really challenging technique. But for some people, I'd highly encourage it. There's like, you're not reading, you are not writing, you're not looking at anyone, you're not talking to anyone. You are just in yourself, in your shadow self for like 10 days, but you come to this powerful space where it's like, oh my God. For a lot of people, I go, I'll never do that again. But I found it really cathartic, a really beautiful introduction. But, you know, there's much easier ways to get introduced to meditation. And it's certainly not a household practice, because then you're meant to meditate for an hour in the morning and an hour at night, twice a day. I did that for a period of time, and then I'd always stop. And that's when I went and tried other techniques. So I found that for me, there's 3 criteria. It has to be easy, it has to be effective, and I have to feel derive benefit from it. If it's not easy, if I'm doing meditation practice, which is hard, I'm just not going to do it. Well, I've had enough, right? It's like, I don't need to add something else into my life, which is hard. And so for me, Vipassana was hard, because you meditate for an hour in the morning, an hour at night. I was getting up at 4 a.m. because I had 3 kids, businesses, and want to go for an early morning surf, or if I go out and have a few drinks with my friends the night before, getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning is like, but the minute I broke the habit, it was really hard to sustain. So if it's not easy, we won't do it. If it's not effective, we kind of go, I don't know if it's working, right? I'm just sitting there and I just don't know if I'm deriving any benefit from it. So it's not easy, it's not effective. And I found that some of the meditations that I was experimenting with in between arriving at Vedic meditation they just didn't feel as effective as Vipassana. So Vipassana felt very effective but hard. The others were kind of like easy, like I can just put this sound on and follow it or be guided, but I think I fell asleep. It's okay, but I just didn't feel as the benefits that I derived from Vipassana, so it wasn't as effective. So that's when I was actually going to go back for my 4th time to Vipassana, and I had a friend that lived his life at a really high level, and someone I looked up to from, I guess, a spiritual standpoint, a business standpoint, a sporting standpoint, just one of those guys that was incredibly gifted. It's like, dude, like you just got given like the golden bucket there with all of these skills, and just an amazing, charismatic human being, great healer, wealthy and affluent, but lived on that level of service, pure service. He goes, Rich, stop with the pasta, man. You're not going to make it stick this time. It's not going to change. What's going to be different this time? No, I'm going to make it work. No, you're not. He goes, go do Vedic meditation. I go, well, what's that? And he goes, well, you learn over a handful of sessions, a couple of sessions, and you do it twice a day, 20 minutes with a mantra. I thought, oh, that sounds far easier than Vipassana. So I did it. It was easy and it was effective. Straight away, my nervous system, again, because I'm getting that state of rest, which has scientifically been shown to be 2 to 5 times greater level of rest than sleep, my body's just going, oh my God. So I sort of came to meditation based on, I guess, a bit of a career burnout, and I guess suffering from what you'd call, it was actually chronic fatigue, manageable chronic fatigue. And with that comes a natural partnership with depression, because I had no vitality. So it's kind of like, oh my God, life sucks. And so when I finally came to that, it was just like my nervous system started deriving so much benefit. So I just started to feel better for no real reason, no external metrics. The unique thing as well I mentioned about the Vedic technique is it stems from householders. So there's practices, most of the practices that are out there in the meditation arena stem from monastic practices. So they're monks living in caves and ashrams. This practice of the Vedic technique stems from householders, whereby they're like, myself, we had careers where they were maybe farmers or merchants. They had families and, girlfriends and boyfriends and kids. So all of these external agitators in our nervous system, and we're not trying to get out of that. It's not a matter of, like a monastic person, and there's very few of those that know, I'm here, I want to go and live in a cave. I can't deal with this world, but I want to meditate and just feel love and connection. We're here to be the best version of ourselves, perform in the real world. So this technique stems from that. We're not trying to get out of that world. We're trying to drop into a beautiful space and then bring our best state out to add to the mainstream and to help and so on. So that was a really long way to come back to say, find the technique which feels right. And it might take a few attempts, but then my advice would be, once you've got that, you lock it in, and that's what you do. For example, for me, it's twice a day. But then again, I'll have periods where, again, when my nervous system is overrun and I feel I've got a lot on my plate, I'll find my body getting fatigued. Some people will get more anxious. For me, it's fatigue. So during the day, I might lie down, middle of the day, and go, I might just put a guided meditation on just to sort of soothe myself and lie on the floor and do a 20-minute guided meditation. But generally, it's kind of find that really just becomes a part of your life. So that way it becomes something which is locked in. It's like just in there, rather than, you know, that scattergun approach. For some people it might work, but my advice would be, I've seen a lot of people, taught a lot of people, that I feel we're better to have a practice which just resonates, and this is the right one for me. And they said finding that, and also it's really important to also find a teacher which I feel that you can connect with as well. You know, the good thing about the Vedic technique is it's taught in person. You can't learn it online. There might be a few people that do it, but it's kind of frowned upon, because this technique stems from a really beautiful, rich tradition, whereby you used to have to go to the Himalayas and learn, in the mountains and so on. So having that connection point to someone where you can go, Rich, I'm having some challenges with meditation. Can you help me? It's like, yeah, because it's not a straight line. Some people, they're like ducks to water, but some people, they hit these little speed bumps. And a lot of people end up feeling fixed. I've told a lot of people where they've had critical anxiety issues, and all of a sudden, like, they've literally had an example whereby this person could not leave their house without their parent or a friend because of the world was out to attack them. Extreme anxiety. And 2 weeks after, and they've been under the care of therapists and psychologists and so on. I love all that. I study psychology. Yet sometimes I think we need pressure valve release, not dialogue, and not that psychology is just about dialogue. Yet 2 weeks after learning this technique, she sent me a photo of herself sitting in a park bench. Oh my God, I can't believe this. It's been years since I've been able to do this. But again, just because she's releasing that internal pressure valve, then after a period of time, it's like, I feel fixed. I don't need to do that 40 minutes a day, that practice. I'm like, no, stress doesn't take a holiday. So then all of a sudden, 6 months later, back into that trough. Rich, I need your help. Can you help me get started again? So finding a teacher which you can connect with as well would be, you know, if you feel that you want to treat it seriously, having someone that can just sort of have you back is important. But yeah, so that was a really long answer.
No, I love that. And I totally agree with what you were saying. Like, you need to have that consistency. I think, you know, if you're getting to that point where you're trying something because you're burnt out, once you get back to normal, don't drop the thing that like helped you get there. So
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And then the line I think one of my teacher's teacher, Tom Miles, is an amazing human being. And he's the guy, I guess, that labeled this technique, the Vedic meditation technique. He just, stress doesn't take a holiday. You don't take a holiday. You know, it's like, and when we understand the human nervous system, the amount of information we're consuming in a single day. So we're like, if you go back 250 years ago, think how we used to live. It was pretty simple, right? Like, I might have been concerned, who's my daughter with? Who's that guy she's hanging out with? Where's my son gone? Oh, why is he throwing rocks? Hopefully that doesn't hit someone. Or do we have enough like vegetables to last winter? Have we got enough produce? All that sort of stuff. Those concerns are universal. They've been with us for thousands of years. Fast forward to today, we're hurtling through space in little tin machines. We walk into a service station. You have millions of bits of information fighting for your attention just so you can walk up and pay for your fuel. You've got these magazine covers saying, you should look like this. And the Snickers bars going, you really do want me, and so on. So our brain's got to filter all this stuff out. Then these little things and, you know, these wonderful devices, they're wonderful, but they're taking up a lot of bandwidth. So we're currently, I liken it to, if we open up our phone and we look at how many apps we're running, it's like, oh my God, this is crazy. So this is probably a really simple analogy of what's meditation. Well, if you open up your phone and shut all your apps, that's meditation. So therefore, when you start it back up again, you can just open that what you want rather than having 20 apps running in the background just to help us get through life, because we've got all these undercurrents. So yeah, so that is crazy. So but yeah, that the consumption of information is really having a big impact on our conscious bandwidth in our side. So yeah, keep meditating. Don't stop.
yeah, no, I literally love that. And there's so many things I want to ask and move forward to, but I just want to bring up this one thing, because aside from meditation, I'm also regularly seeing Chinese medicine people and acupuncturists and stuff like that. And I remember one time going to see my acupuncturist and I said to him, I'm tired all the time. And he's like, tell me about your day. And I was like, yep, cool. I get up at 6 and then I do this, and this, and then I go to bed at 9. And he's like, okay, do you sit down in there? And I'm, no, I don't sit down. And he's like, oh, okay, you need to stop in the middle of the day. And he was like, it's kind of like your phone when you start to run your phone out, but if it's on 50% and you put it on the charge, it'll come back to like 75% power, and it's good to go for the rest of the day. And that always stayed with me, because I think that's so relevant to meditation. If you are feeling that little bit drained, literally just, take 20 minutes and go and lie down and just get yourself into a relaxed state to reset your nervous system. That can carry you through the day until you can go back to normal, I think. So
totally.
yeah, and that just stayed with me, and I was like, oh, makes a lot of sense. Why didn't I think of this before? So when people are like learning how to meditate and they are stressed and things like that, you say you meditate twice a day. Is that start of the day and end of the day? And what do you think of meditating in the middle of the day if you're going through a high pressure time?
Yeah. Well, generally, if we, again, depends on the technique. And for some people, middle of the day is their morning and so on. So it's really a matter of finding what dovetails into your life perfectly. But for me, it's the first thing I do. And if you are going on your phone first thing in the morning, please stop, please, because you are basically spiking cortisol. We get cortisol in the morning to get up and going, but then you're basically increasing your stress hormones just to go and check your emails. And then all of a sudden you're off on tangents which you have no control over. So my advice is always get up and start with you. Just do some breath work or some stretching or whatever it might be, some quiet times, and go into that. But for me, it's meditation. So that way I'm touching that, going to that place beyond the mind. You think of it like, again, another beautiful concept of, what they call this particular technique would be that you've got 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So we're sitting on that surface level of the ocean with a wild storm, raging seas. If you took a cross section of that ocean, at the basis of that ocean, in even the wildest of storms, it's calm. It's barely moving. So if we get up, we start away playing the program of being rich. I wake up, go rich. I'm already caught in that hustle of the world. Whereas if I can just go, just stop for a moment, rich, drop back into that state. And underneath that crazy thoughts, it's really what we are. It's the essence of what we are. So we touch that, then we bring that. And in that state, we feel more gracious. We feel more gratitude and love and compassion, more resilience, more adaptability, because we're not playing that stress game. Go. Got to make the kids lunch, got to race, got to do this, got to do the projects, and we can't always future pacing. Whereas instead we just drop in. Mind still moves, mind still thoughts, the monkey's still there, but we just, this is lovely. And then we take those characteristics out of the world. We will find we are far more resilient when those situations arise where they might increase that stress response or trigger a stress response. Initially, you might still feel them, but over time we find, whereas I used to react to that, now I'm responding. And then I get home until late afternoon and I drop in again. It's like I wash that mud away. In saying that, if we feel that I'm cooked right now, so I generally, when I'm teaching, I'll also give cues and techniques to come into mindfulness. What for me is mindfulness? It's open meditation. It's how I'm living in the day. And if I have something which starts triggering my stress responses, I go, okay, I can breathe. So your breath is such a powerful cue to be able to either accelerate anxiety and stress or decelerate it. So if I find myself going, okay, situations rising, anxiety is just a projection of the future, worrying about something that may or may not occur. And it's like, oh my God, this might happen. And that's also going to start you probably finding shallow breathing up in the chest. So if you're feeling that stress, you can simply just go, okay, I'm just going to use breath. So if we find yourself breathing fast, it's like the accelerator on a car. You're pushing that down, you'll find you're jacking up your nervous system. If you put your foot off the accelerator, it's not a brake, but it's just going to slow that down. So if people are feeling stressed, there's some breath work called 4-7-8. It's so simple. I don't know if you heard of that. Basically, breathe in for 4 into your belly, like a balloon expanding. Hold that breath for 7 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and breathe out. So the exhalation, that longer exhalation, will just downregulate that stress response. So if and you can do that in a meeting, in an elevator, going to do a presentation or whatever it might be. When you go, I've got so much weighing on this. If I don't do this, stop all that. You've got it. Just go, okay, into that breath, 4-7-8. And there's actually another way called the physiological sigh, which was apparently the fastest way to downregulate the nervous system. So rather than doing a 20-minute meditation, if you're in a business and you don't have that ability, you might not want to do this if there's lots of people around, and you'll see why in a second. But apparently, this is from one of those universities in the States. I can't recall which one, but it's like this: 2 short, sharp breaths, like almost like you're hyperventilating, followed by so again, not going to be doing that in the office if you've got like 20 people around you, but if you're in your car or there's no one around, you do that for a couple of minutes. You'll feel, instead of that anxious heartbeat, you'll just feel that start to calm down after 1 to 2 minutes. Then you can do things like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which are mindfulness techniques. What's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Bringing the mind and body into the moment via breath and our senses can really help us downregulate that stress response in eyes open time. So yeah, but again, if someone feels drawn to it, they feel they're going to be better, they might want to meditate before presentation and then just visualize how it's going to happen. Highly recommended. But for those of us that don't have that 20 minutes, a couple of minutes of breath work and mindfulness, consciousness of going, okay, what am I here? What am I doing? What can I see? And with breath, you'll find that I've got this. So it can really help with that stress response.
Love that. And I would also love to ask, because I meditate every day in the morning, same as you, first thing. And I really notice that when I don't do it, like on the rare occasion that I don't do it, I really do notice why. So what is it about meditation, regardless of kind of what technique you use? Because obviously there are so many different techniques, but what is it about meditation that does seem to just clear away all the stuff?
Yeah.
This is a tricky one, sorry.
It is a tricky one. It's a good one. And I'm just sort of sitting with that for a second. So I'd probably say that all that stuff's, a lot of the stuff's mind stuff, right? And sits in those unconscious patterns, and it's that brain pattern. So who and what we are is based on our brain waves. It's pretty like we run these patterns of thought, and how we think creates these feelings. It's just this perpetual loop, these thoughts and chemicals, which creates the identity of Rich and everything that comes with that. And that's, been going for a long time. It's like, oh man, I've got like 47 years of this stuff behind me that's been building up to my identity. And therefore I wake up and I get going. And it's like, the monkey's playing the minute before I even wake up. The lunatic's going, okay, let's play the game of Rich. And it's really it's extraordinarily tiring. It's like all of those programs that have to come with being who and what we are. So, and a lot of that's not really what we are anyway, right? We're not our thoughts, we are not our mind, but yeah. So when we get stuck in our patterns, how do we clear that? To upgrade our consciousness, to be that better version of ourselves when we keep staying in that state. And we're staying in that state because we're thinking and feeling exactly what we've been thinking and feeling for a long time. How do you change that? You have to change your brain waves. If you cannot change your brain waves, you're not going to be able to change state, change self, change reality, because how we see creates all of these things, our feelings and so on, and therefore our outcomes, and then that confirmation. And so it just becomes this perpetual loop of being Rich or being Simone or being John and so on. So we first of all have to shift our brainwaves, and that's where meditation is beautiful and brilliant for that. So we come into different techniques or to go to the different brainwave patterns, but you might go from being that mid to high beta, that stimulated activity of the brain, into sort of more of the alpha brainwave pattern, which is creativity and so on, then into theta, which is more a deep state of rest just before sleep and so on. So I think when we just give the brain the break from the lunatic grabbing the helm constantly, we go, I feel clearer. And beautiful. And there's a beautiful saying from the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who brought transcendental meditation to the West in the 1950s. When you water the root, the tree will bear fruit. And each and every day, if we're going into that vast state within, that's what we're doing. We're watering the root of our being, and we're coming into contact with that beautiful state. Therefore, it just gets rid of those murky brain activity. We get a bit more clarity because we're not stuck perpetually in that same brain state. And therefore, we can start to, okay, well, how do I want to approach the day? What outcomes am I working towards? How can I be more aligned in my business? And so on.
No, I
So I'd
love.
say it helps us, yeah, it helps us shift our brain state, which then helps us stop playing the games that we play only all too well.
Yes, changes the loop.
Absolutely.
I love that so much because, yeah, that is such a big thing that if you've been meditating for a while, you do notice when you don't do it, and you do notice how much clearer you feel when you do. And yeah, like
Yeah,
as I said, I was saying at the start, before we turned on the interview, that I generally meditate for 20 minutes in the morning, but I will sometimes do, a guided meditation on the weekend or during the day. If I need that recharge, I'll do it then. And it's just something that I personally use to really just help with everything. Like, I just think it's my life changed when I started meditating every day. But
totally.
I would love to speak about one thing that I noticed that you reminded me about in what you were just saying, is that also when I did start to meditate regularly, I did notice my connection to self and my alignment to self and source really opened up and expanded. So how does that work? Because, like, yeah, you go from meditating, say, once a week in a group to
Yeah,
meditating every day, and suddenly you're like, wow, things have changed, on the inside.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I think that's the easiest way would be, again, to come back to that ocean analogy, that we spend 60 to 80% of our, or probably 90% of our lives swimming at that surface level, snorkeling around at the top of that reality with our thoughts, outwardly projected by the senses, going, this is who and what I am. That playing that game. And then all of a sudden we come to this state of meditation whereby, and again, I don't want to put any mystical aspects around it. I want to really keep it simple and pragmatic. But when we stop playing that game by the external senses and senses itself, and all of a sudden just close our eyes and we touch this transcendent state where it can just all of a sudden feel calm. If we can just touch on something which, like, oh, for me, it felt like, oh my God, this is the home I never knew I had. This just feels amazing. This is blissful, not as in dance party bliss, but just in serene comfort. Like, I could just stay here forever. Oh my God. And I think when we're just touching that state, that's that state in the essence of what our consciousness is. It comes from that deep river, that basis of the ocean. So we're touching that. So again, you can just imagine, instead of snorkeling and sitting up the top, we're just going down to this depths. And that is what we are. Now, if you looked at a wave, for example, a wave looks like it's an individual thing, and that wave gets lost in that in itself until it crashes and then merges back into the ocean. So that the wave is just that energy of the ocean at play. Yet often the time we could think it's just the wave, where all of a sudden, when we go beyond that wave and realize, oh my God, I'm so much more than that. And I think we come into contact with that underlying field of who and what we are. That's just incredibly nurturing and incredibly, enriching. There's, oh my God, this is so much more beautiful. And I said, there's periods, you touch it, we go, it's so much nicer in there than out there. It's like the craziness of the world, especially like 2020 and 2021. Gosh, man, there's days where I just go, can I just stay meditating? Because it's so brilliant. But the technique I derive from, no, Richie, here to live, get out and perform, go do your work and so on, but it's like you go into this, oh, that's so lovely. So lovely. So I just think when we touch that, something that's a bit deeper. And again, soul's a weird word for a lot of people, call it consciousness, call it nature, call it energy. Like, come on, get real. We all know that there's an energy that runs through the current of the entire universe. And that is nothing but what we are. So I think when we just have these moments, it's beyond the mind. The mind can't even grasp it. When your being touches it, it's like, oh wow, this is lovely. And I think that just enriches our life a little bit. And that's why we become happier, like not all sunshine and lollipops dancing around going, I'm meditating, life's wonderful. Like, I still yell at my kids. They still piss me off from time to time. I still play those games, but all of a sudden it's like, okay, Rich, there's something far deeper, and go meditate. Oh, it's better, and so on. And then we come back out and play the games and so on. But I think we just have that, touch with being. The Vedic philosophy call it a state of being. And that's that current, I kind of liken it to, if you look at a light globe, the light globe isn't the light, it's the conduit to display that light. Now, the light globe could easily mistake itself for being the light. I'm wonderful, I'm the light. But without that energy source behind it, it's just a glass shell. The conduit runs through it, which connects it to the energy source. And that's the same as what I think we are. We are just the energy of the universe. And through that's what the Vedic philosophy will call that state of being, an unconscious field of being. And when we touch that in meditation, we just start to feel better. And there's another beautiful statement from the Vedic philosophy is when we're established in being, we perform action. So at some point when we meditate for long periods over a period of time, that underlying state that we touch starts to become our permanent waking reality. So therefore, we're just more creative, more loving, compassionate, and so on. You know, you can have someone blowing up in front of you, and you can be at work, and your boss just screaming, "Oh my God!" But you're just like, "Oh my God, that's cool. I can deal with this. Sweet. Someone's losing their shit. It's okay," and so on. And someone's give them my love and connection, and without going to like hippie soft mode, we're still going to, be assertive and so on. So, but I just think fundamentally, we just touch something which is far deeper yielding than the superficial reality, and that's why it's so nurturing and such a beautiful gift. So I think it's the greatest gift we can give ourselves. For me, it certainly was. And many millions of others on the planet.
No, I definitely 100%. And I used to meditate as a child, not really knowing what I was actually doing. And it was only as an adult that I started, I know, and then I started to do it regularly as an adult. And I was like, oh, that's what I was doing. And the second as well that I started to do it intentionally, like I literally was like, all right, well, I used to do this just as a thing that I used to do, but now I'm going to intentionally use this as a way to connect within and quieten my external to go internal. Like it just opens up this whole other world of connection. And I agree, like I'm the same in that I believe that everything is connected and that we're all a part of source. And those quiet times in meditation is when you can really connect into that, so that when you are, trying to be more soul aligned in your life in general, you already have a base of where to start from. You already know what it feels like to just be calm and serene and connect in. I don't know. I just feel like it's a nice way of being, and it can help you get into that natural alignment that you want to be in a lot quicker and easier if you have a regular meditation practice.
Yeah, totally. I think, again, if we even look at it from a brainwave perspective and a science perspective, we have more coherence. Our brain is more coherent. You think of when we're incoherent, we're kind of scattergun. We're like this, like a bit frenetic, a bit there, a bit here. And, it's almost like you've got a compartmentalized brain. It's like there's a symphony, but there's no conductor. And everyone's got earphones on, so they can't hear what they're doing. So you've got different parts of the brain not working fluidly. But it's got an amazing tool set. This nervous system we've all inherited is amazing. Yet if that's not in coherence, it can cause us trouble. It's like we can lead ourselves down into these little battlefields internally. Whereas a coherent brain is like you've got the conductor, and it's just got everyone playing that same thing. And so therefore we're far more aligned because we've got access to the tool sets. And again, sometimes we can just put these scientific understandings on the consciousness through the nervous system, and it just really helps us go, all right, cool, yeah, I get that. That helps. Like you can imagine being able to think more creatively and critically in problem situations rather than stressed. Oh my God, there's this stress. Oh my God, there's problems. The minute we get stressed, we deactivate our prefrontal cortex, which is the latest development in the human brain. We resort back to the limbic part of the brain, which is that primal part of the brain. That's fight or flight, us versus them. And you lose creative thinking and intelligence. And that's when people will lash out, say silly things, and then 10 minutes later, the brain kicks back into the prefrontal cortex, comes online, and you go, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that. So when we start to meditate, we get greater regulation of the ability to choose to respond rather than react. So therefore, in those moments, we're feeling more aligned to be able to deal with and handle different circumstances that come our way. And therefore, life is just more fluid. It's just like, oh, wow, this is a cool journey. So it definitely helps to feel that alignment.
Yeah, I definitely love that. And I do love that you came from a scientific standpoint in explaining that as well, because I think it's so important to be able to kind of just get that understanding. Like, yeah, you can get the understanding from the spiritual side, but it's also nice to get the understanding from the actual science side as well, and melt the two together, because both sides, they're going to get you to the same direction. So having that understanding of how it all works is just really nice. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So if you had,
for me, it's important.
Yeah, super important. I totally agree. And I have the exact same thing with my personal health views, is that everything that I believe health-wise can be backed up with science. And I think that's nice, because then you are now I'm going into a completely random topic, but you're helping out both sides of your brain to work coherently, because you're supporting your creative side and that feels and knows things, but you're also supporting your analytical side with the science behind it. So to me, it just helps things to be a little bit more coherent. But
I think it's really important to think critically, as well. Like, because if I say to you, look, if you come to meditation, you'll come and experience like the sensation of like you're floating away on a cloud. It's so beautiful, so blissful and amazing. If you don't experience that, if you don't have the ability to have direct experience, but I just keep telling you, it'll happen. It'll happen. You're just going to, it's kind of blind faith. So you have to have a direct experience of things and think critically. And that's the beauty of meditation. It is a direct experience, but along that journey, having the ability to think critically, to sort of weigh up all things, is also really important. And to understand that these days we've got, thankfully, there's so much scientific measurement on the benefits on a physiological and a neurological aspect to the nervous system. So we've got the science there. It's irrefutable, which is awesome.
Literally love it. Totally, completely love it. Would you happen to have 3 top tips for someone who is wanting to get more into meditation?
Yeah, definitely. It'd be, I guess the first tip would be just to start something. And, ideally I'd be recommending some kind of, a self-transcending meditation. If I can save you the challenges of what I went through and what I've seen loads of other people go to, it'd be to start with something like Vedic transcendental meditation, or whatever it might be. It's, again, from a science perspective, there's so much science behind it as well, and the direct experience that I've seen and experienced. So that'd be my top tip. But again, it can be quite challenging because it's limited by the fact that you have to find a physical teacher, and it's a bit more cost prohibitive than going and getting an app. So it might not suit everyone. So the second tip would be, if you can't do that, would be to go and download an app. There's literally no resistance point there. You can jump there straight away. And if it's cost, then you can go online and go get some guided meditation. But it would be definitely to start, to maybe just set, intention that I'm just going to do it for, 5 to 10 to 15 minutes a day, whatever it might be. But just do it and lose any expectations is another tip. So I'm going to give you 4. Lose expectations. Expectations are the enemy of meditation and life, because if I expect to experience something and I don't, I suffer. So, oh my God, I expected meditation, good, I suck at it. So don't have any expectations on it. You want to have an experience, but don't expect anything. And then the 4th would be, do not battle your mind. Do not sit there thinking you are going to quieten your mind. If you're new to meditation, you sit there and try and quiet your mind, you're going to get frustrated. Your mind will think, like your heart will beat. It's involuntary. And just allow it and love it for what it is. The crazy lunatic, we've all got it. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful servant, but a horrible master. And meditation is a great tool to help us turn it from being into our servant.
I love all of that. And I meditate every day, as mentioned. And I just wish that we could keep talking about this, because I feel like there's so many more things that people should know, even like what to do if they haven't quietened the mind and, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, meditation is such a beautiful practice and you can just get so much from it. And I just wish we had all day. Anyway, I love all of those tips, and so valid. If you can't quieten the mind one day, that's okay. Don't give up. Like, there'll come a point where your mind will be quiet, and then another time it won't be. And I think it's just accepting where you're at the time.
Even to look at it like a river, and you'll sit down and it can be like rapids, and then it moves through hits a bit of deeper water, and it might be for a second, oh, it's calm, I stop thinking, and now I'm thinking again. Then it starts off again. Don't even worry about it. I liken my mind's just along for the ride. I really have I don't care if my mind's busy, tired, or transcending. It's irrelevant. I'm giving my body a profound state of rest. And that's where we derive so much benefit. And when your body starts to get into that restful state, your mind will start to quiet. It's almost like the chicken and egg scenario. So don't worry too much about the mind.
I love that. Thank you. And now, do you happen to know of any resources that someone could look at if they did want to get started with meditation?
Yeah, look, again, I'd encourage the first highest level would be, I'd encourage Vedic meditation. And it's a beautiful community out there. There's so many great teachers. Just look in your area, and you could just go, Sydney Vedic meditation teacher or whatever it might be. You could, or Insight Timer. I know they've got lots of guided and good meditations on there. They're probably the two simplest ways that I'd encourage. If you want to get to the PhD level meditation, then that'd be encouraged to go find a teacher, someone that you can connect with, and alternatively, go and get an app or go on to a weekly class. But
yeah, there's so many more questions just from that I feel like we should share with people. Anyway, this has been amazing. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
I do occasionally go on social media, so you can find me there if you just look up Rich Muir Meditation, or if you look at my business website called The Meditation Spot. You can reach out by there and send me an email, and I'm happy to talk and chat to anyone about meditation. It's such a cool thing, and to help steer and guide people where I can. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to help.
Literally love that. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time. I feel like we've just scratched the literal surface of meditation.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. Regardless, I highly encourage just to go and start. No expectations and don't stop.
Yeah, agree. Definitely don't stop. It's like, need maintenance. No, I love that. Thank you so much, Rich. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Simone, and keep up that great work.